Every political campaign, and Otis Sanford, the editor of the Commercial Appeal, called Charles Carpenter Mayor Harrington's #1 crony. But Charles Carpenter's on the air saying he's not a politician and he offers the only chance for change in Memphis. So, as I said, you're going to hear this from a lot of the politicians, but keep in mind what Myron Lawler said when Myron Lawler said the day after Mayor Harrington did his infamous interview with Joe Birch on Channel 5. How many people saw or heard about that interview that Mayor Harrington did with Joe Birch? Yeah. Well, after that interview, and Harrington announcing that he's probably going to get back in the race, Myron Lawler said, "Well, Mayor Harrington says one thing and then does another." And to me, that's typical of all politicians. We know this. We know that they say one thing and do another. They tell us exactly what they want to hear, or what we want to hear, until they get elected, and then all of those promises we find out are nothing more than empty promises. So I'm just saying that my candidacy is going to be about not politics, but just common sense. And I'm not here telling you that I have all of this political knowledge about how to run a city. I don't. But I do have some common sense, and I know that this city needs to be run like a business. And I have been a successful businessman for the past 38 years. I've owned wrestling companies. I've promoted myself as an independent contractor and been pretty darn successful for 38 years. And I think that this city needs to be run like a business. I've said this before, if our mayor or any of our city government leaders were running a business, they'd have been fired a long time ago. And you can't spend more money than you take in. And our city leaders, city government leaders continue to think that they know how to spend your money better than you do. So we have the highest property taxes in the state of Tennessee. Then you got to ask yourself, do we have the best city in the state of Tennessee? Do we have the best quality of life of any city in the state of Tennessee? We pay the most for it. I think we should have the highest quality of life. And common sense would tell you that. But common sense in politics is pretty uncommon. And so that's why you're going to hear me keep harping on the fact that I'm not a politician. I don't want to ever be considered a politician. I just want to be the mayor of the city, run the city like a business, run the school system like a business, and make this city the best city that it can be. We have a tremendous amount of potential here. So much of it goes untapped. I mean, there's so many things that that I will be talking about as this campaign goes on, that we can do together. We got to realize. I know I travel all over to a different city every Monday night for the past 15 years with the WWE, a different city in the United States every Monday night, and I can honestly say that Memphis is probably the most racially divided city that I've seen anywhere in the country. We all pretty much know this, but nobody talks about it. It's talked about behind closed doors, but nobody comes out, says anything, or tries to do anything about it. And sadly, as I look around, I mean, everybody take a look around the room. Do we see one African American? No, we don't. And that's that's a big part of what's wrong with this city. In 1999, when I ran for this office, I had a meeting with Wyatt Chandler, former Mayor Wyatt Chandler, and he sat down in his office across his desk from me. We're a really wise man, and just a great guy. And he said, "Jerry, I'm going to tell you something about your run for mayor." He said, "The black people in this city love you. They'll spend their last dollar to come see you wrestle." He said, "I venture to say in 90% of the houses in Memphis, there's a picture of Martin Luther King, and right beside the picture of Jerry the King." He said, "The black people love you." He said, "But they will not vote for you." And at the time, I said, "I don't know." I said, "I wrestle at Mid-South Coliseum every Monday night. I look up there, 10,000 seat Coliseum, and 7,000 of those seats are filled with African Americans." He said, I understand. It's just what I said. They love you. They'll come to see you wrestle, spend their last dollar, but they will not vote for you. And sadly, I went and did campaigning in the predominantly black districts, and the people turned out literally in the thousands. We did rallies and events, and boy, they were there getting T-shirts and cheering and waving and had signs and signing autographs. And then after the election, I looked back in those precincts, and one of them had 8 votes. The other precinct, where 1,000 people turned out for a rally, 12 votes. And so that's the reality of what we're facing in the city. If you remember the interview that Joe Burge did, excuse me, with Mayor Harrington, most people, the thing most people recall about that interview was the fact that, well, I think when he was talking about paying for the special election, how flippant and how casual Harrington was about just saying, well, yeah, it cost $1 million, just pay for it. You know, this is a democracy, it's not an anarchy, just pay for it. But the thing that struck me the most that Harrington said in that interview, and see if you remember when Joe Burge said, Mayor Harrington, the people of Memphis don't agree with what you're doing here. They're not in favor of your decision. You changing your mind and then getting back in a race that's going to cost the taxpayers $1 million. And Harrington says, who doesn't agree? What people don't agree? And Joe said, well, Mayor, we see it on the internet. We see it on the emails that we're getting. Read the blogs. There's not one person that's in favor of it. And Harrington said, Joe, my supporters don't have that technology. He said, my supporters are the silent majority. Now, to me, what is scary about that is, here's Mayor Harrington saying that after 18 years of his leadership, the predominantly African American voters that make up his core of supporters either are too poor to buy a computer or are not smart enough, intelligent enough to learn how to use a computer. And sadly, that's the truth. And that's what Mayor Harrington wants them to be. He needs to keep that core of supporters uninformed so that they will leave the projects and the most impoverished part of the town and run and beat the doors down to pull that lever to vote for him again. And there's a difference in leadership, in leading a community or a city in a certain direction. There's a difference in being a leader and a manipulator. And I think what we've had for the past 18 years